Despite the t-shirts, I'm not actually in California, though it is hotter than California today. It's hot. This video is an interview with a London rapper called Alex Dutty. I first met Alex on Facebook a few years ago, and I witnessed a campaign of abuse and bullying against him by various members of the hip-hop community and their fans. So I watched and I listened and I spoke to people involved, and I tried to find out why this guy was the target of so much abuse and hatred. I hate bullies, and what I saw was a working class man standing alone being attacked by a bunch of mostly privileged middle class bullies, including successful music performers. It was the kind of thing we see too much of these days. When the mob smells blood, the mob attacks. So why were they attacking him? It apparently came down to the fact that Alex had produced an anti-racism track and video called Proud to Be White. And although the title is clearly provocative, the video itself has a clear anti-racism message. In fact, I think the video is a beautiful shout-out against racism and in favor of racial equality. So again, why were they attacking him? That's hard to explain, other than the fact that woke mobs love accusing people of racism and then tearing them to shreds. Alex mentions a couple of music industry people who were instrumental in attacking him. One was a music journalist called Laura Brosnan, and is known on social media as Hyperfrank. The other was a rapper called Nova Flip. What's interesting is that both of these people are white, and this appears to be an example of that very modern phenomenon, the woke white savior, in which people signal how very anti-racist they are by turning on other white people and accusing them of racism for applause from the crowd. But none of this was right. The tune and the video are clearly not racist. Alex himself was politically naive and didn't really understand the mess he'd stepped into, as he explains in the interview. And so he couldn't effectively defend himself. He was chased out as a performer because a bunch of influential bullies decided to turn on him for no good reason. So the outcome of all this was that a white working class man was cancelled, his career torn to pieces, because he created an anti-racism video. I've reached out to both Hyperfrank and Nova Flip to ask for their side of the story. I'll update if I hear back from either of them. So please don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit like and share if you enjoyed the video. Could you start introducing yourself and explain like who you are and what you do?
My name is Alex Dutty. I'm a recording artist from London. That's basically what it is. That's what I do.
Cool.
I'm a musician,
rapper,
singer.
I encountered you a few years ago. I'll come into that, and yeah, I found your music very compelling and stuff. But your music, you're a hip hop artist. You're in the hip hop scene.
Yeah.
And I found your music is very real. It's very much about experience and about life experience, about poverty and inequality, and that kind of stuff. Could you explain, like, where did you grow up and what was your life experience like growing up?
Started in Southeast. Was all around there for pretty much first half of my life. I'd say the first 15 years, 16.
Which kind of bits of Southeast?
Oh, everywhere. Brixton, Peckham, South Norwood, Gypsy Hill, Penge, Annerley, Catford.
Pretty much the whole loop.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And I moved to. I did a little time in behind bars for a little while, and then I moved to East London. I was there for about 10 years, and then I moved to Northwest London, and I'm giving away my age now. I've been there a few years, and now I'm in another part of London. So,
yeah, I've done the reverse trip. I grew up in Northwest London, and I'm in Southeast now. So we somehow crossed each other over. Yeah, you say you're giving away your age. I don't know exactly how old you are, but roughly, because you grew up in the hip hop scene and that kind of thing, then you hit your teens in the 90s sometime.
I wish. Yeah, I grew up in the 90s. Yeah, I did grow up in the 90s. I wasn't born in the 90s, sadly, but yeah, I grew up in the 90s.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, it was. South London was a different place then.
Yeah.
safe and
your experience kind of chimed with mine. I'm obviously from an earlier generation, but I grew up. I was at a school. It was like, I think there were 4 white kids in my class, and at that time it wasn't hip hop. It was reggae and dub and dancehall and that kind of thing. And so I guess your hip hop experience is like my reggae and dub experience, and it seems we've had parallel lives in some ways. We've had similar experiences by the sounds of it.
Yeah. I mean, for most people growing up in inner city London, it's a very multicultural place. So it's quite a normality for pretty much anyone living within the inner city part of London, I would imagine, especially in the last 30, 40 years.
Yeah. And can you explain the UK hip hop scene? Like that's obviously been your passion. And what brought you to hip hop, and why hip hop? And can you explain how the UK hip hop scene works?
Oh, I wish I knew. I wish I knew, mate. It changes day to day, week to week, month to month. But I mean, it's gone through many different phases. You know, it's had the backpack phase. I'd say that's probably how it started out. My earliest memory of hip hop, UK hip hop anyway, it was very kind of bebop. It wasn't quite the same as American hip hop at the time. So I gravitated more to American hip hop because it was more cultured, should I say, more organically cultured, you know? Although there were some good artists that started to come through, like Sway. I think he's one of my earlier artists from the UK that I really did fuck with. Like there's some good lines in his first album. And yeah, he's from Northwest as well, I think, or somewhere. He's from London, so it didn't feel like it was these white guys from like the countryside who had equipment, the only ones that could afford equipment, who were making the music at the time. It felt different. It felt like this is organically. This is the reason I liked American hip hop. You know, it was culturally organic.
Yeah,
and we had that until artists like Sway come through, Klashnikov, and then it started to change a little bit. And yeah,
there was a feeling in early UK hip hop.
Started getting opinionated.
Sorry? Yeah, go on, be opinionated. That's fine.
Those backpack guys started getting a bit opinionated.
Oh yeah,
but that's way down the line.
So yeah, I mean, I think my field. I wasn't really around hip hop for a long time. I started to get into US hip hop when I was in the mid 90s, but to me it was about dub and breakbeat and the jungle and all those kinds of sounds. So hip hop was a bit alien to me, but it was that, what got me into it was that kind of conscious hip hop from the US that came out in the mid 90s. And
there was some good stuff.
The UK scene, for a long time, to me, I don't know much about it, but it sounded like people were trying to copy how the Americans sounded.
Exactly. Yeah, it did. The beats were very like Alchemist sounding. Like it just sounded, and even like the New York scene, it kind of progressed from there. It moved on to like West Coast, the LA, and then Atlanta, and the UK guys were still making these New York 90s sounding beats. So it's like it stagnated the scene. And so what come into the picture was grime. It was more culturally organic, and it just overtook. It left them guys for dead. They, you know what I mean?
Because grime is a proper London sound.
Being props, but you know, we all know what it was.
Yeah, I mean, grime chimed more with me because it came more from those Jamaican roots that I was used to, and it sounded proper.
And Afrobeat, we got drill, we got it's gone off to so many different genres. You know, and obviously then after the grime thing, we had gigs come through, and that's when I'd say UK hip hop started. Yeah, real UK hip hop started was when gigs come around.
Yeah, he's a Peckham boy, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
South Londoner.
That's my take on it, really. And then we've ended up here with drill, and it's a multi multi-million-pound industry, which it wasn't when the backpack guys were doing their thing. And so it was obviously doing something wrong. That's all I could say. but I wasn't really a part of that. I kind of I started making music just on the back end of when grime had just started popping off, and the hip hop scene and kind of was fizzling out. Sway was quite big at the time when I started rapping, and he inspired me, to be honest. Actually, one of the people that inspired me to start making music, because I was from London, he's from London, and with my upbringing, I felt I was as eligible to make this kind of rap, more so than some of these backpack guys. And I did cross paths with a couple of these guys as well, and they wasn't very forthcoming or supportive of my career, but a lot of people I met in the grime scene were. So I started switching up my style and kind of just, and I love all music. So, I create what inspires me and what influences me. I don't kind of fit myself into one kind of box. I kind of I'm a musician. I wouldn't say I'm a hip hop artist or a rapper, like, you know what I'm saying? But because it's too in a box. But I mean, I make music, but it's obviously rhyme based. So yeah, you could call it like rap style stuff. But I sing a lot nowadays. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna auto tune and that. But yeah, I can bust a note a little bit,
Yeah, we'll have to hopefully stick a couple of your tracks onto this. I was listening to a couple of your tracks before this, and obviously I know some of your earlier stuff. But I think in terms of how is I guess the UK hip hop scene was pretty multiracial and pretty mixed, and I mean, how was it in a kind of?
It definitely become that till today. It's probably not a lot of white people involved. I think we've got H. That's about it, which isn't a problem. It is what it is. So it's become more it's reversed. It's become more diversified, and
so I think when I first encountered you, it must have been about five years ago, roughly, and I think it was in the aftermath of you creating this track, "Proud to Be White," and I think that's a great track, and I've watched the video from time to time, and it's like properly brings a lump to the throat. There's so much emotion in that. So, and there's a lot of very strong feeling in it. You say things like, they say it's a white man's world, but I don't know anything. And so now they label me a racist just because I'm proud to be alive.
You see, I'm proud to be Caucasian, just like every Indian is proud to be an Asian. I used to live with Jamaicans. They taught me to be happy with myself, to my amazement. And if I'm comfortable within, why should the clothing that I wear define the colour of my skin? I was born with very little melanin, and I'm proud of it, so don't start making it a thing. I know about the trouble that it brings. To be proud of being white, it's not something that we think or ever think. They say it's a white man's world, but I don't even own anything. Yeah, I'm proud to be white. If you're proud to be dark, then I'm proud to be light. So now they label me a racist, just because I'm proud to be alive. Like, I don't have a right to be proud of who I am. Like, my life is just a lie. In order to be true to myself, I am not ashamed, I am proud.
Experiences were driving you to write those kinds of lyrics?
I was in a very different place in my life than I am now. Definitely. So I have to take myself back there for a second.
I mean, the video kind of chimed with me because I was involved.
I wasn't going to take 100% credit for it, but a lot of it was the label I was signed to was the ideas for the video. That was pretty much their content. But it was my job to come up with a song to go with that concept.
It was a kind of nice thing. I mean, it chimed with me because it's about a skinhead, and I grew up in that skinhead era,
Yeah.
A lot of unfair stereotyping of skinheads as racists. You know, people made these very simple connections, not realizing that actually it was the skinheads and the Rastas that first got together and mixed reggae and punk and came up with ska and new sounds and stuff. So to an extent, you had this kind of weird contradiction that the people who were most labeled racist were actually the ones with the blackest social circles and the ones who were kind of most part of the Jamaican community at that time.
And it's funny because that's exactly how I was treated when the song came out. So it was obscure. There was a lot of things going on at the same time. Maybe it opened my eyes up to so much social issues that I didn't. I mean, obviously, I know there's a lot of social issues in the world, but all the different crevices and different narratives that people.
What year did it come out? That track.
What year did it come out? It was 2015, I think.
Right, it's around then. But that for me, again, was a time when a lot of things started changing. It's like society, there were earthquakes and everything just started moving around me. But that was really the birth of Black Lives Matter was around then. And to me, that changed a lot of people's attitudes. And there was we jumped from this kind of a feeling of equality to this feeling of that there's a division and that you can't have equality because black people are suffering too much and white people don't know about this suffering and they're too privileged. And so all of these narratives kind of started dripping in around that time.
And the people that suffered the most are the people that had supported this movement by its own definition the most, because they were getting pushed out from the community, the only community they knew, people like myself. And it was weird because a lot of it was fueled by non-black people. It was fueled by these social warriors, like writers, and like Hyper Frank would have been most probably top of my list at that time. Nova Flip as well.
I encountered him, yeah.
Yeah, you know, these very, and it seemed quite hypocritical because she writes for a music that is designated writing about black music, and she's white, so she's taking someone's job that could do as good a job on the basis of her whole argument against me. She was in direct conflict with that in her own job description. Then you had him, and again, he comes from the backpack scene that was completely whitewashed at a time where there wasn't any black people really involved. They could probably name 3 people. Like, it was the reverse of today. So again, it felt like the people criticizing me the most were the most unlikeliest to have the right to.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people from the actual community that I'm from were supporting me and supporting, but they were so loud and so vocal, it started to seem the other way around to anyone watching it from the outside. So it put me in a crazy space to move forward musically. It made it very difficult because it wasn't a case of whether people agree with what I said or they agree with the sentiment of what I was saying. It was more of a case of they didn't want the heat that could come associating with me. So I think in a place where I couldn't move forward musically. So I had to kind of walk away from essentially the music industry pretty well. I haven't walked away from the music industry. I own a company that does music PR, but essentially I had to walk away from being at the forefront of the music industry, you know, because it was like I wasn't allowed a voice anymore. Like, so it was like how I was kind of treated and I was made to feel. So it's like you don't really want to, you know, you put out amazing work and it falls on deaf ears. It gets to that point where, like,
I think, part of this whole woke movement that, you know, the woke thing, social justice thing, I guess, I mean, it's been building for a long time, but I think it really came to a head, or started to grow fast around the birth of Black Matter. And yeah, part of, their whole thing.
I haven't got anything against that movement as well. In fact,
Yeah.
the riots and everything that's happened recently off the back of it have caused a lot of change in attitude from white people, from the majority of, white people who don't interact with other nations and religions and people who are just different from them. In some other parts of the country, I'm feeling an attitude change from them. Like, they're feeling it. They don't have to live amongst minorities to understand what they're going through now, because social media is actually really helping. I felt before, in 2015, it was just trolls running it to just get kudos off of comments and likes. I didn't feel like there was any kind of actual, let's do something to actually make a change. I felt like it was lots of individual egos just using a genuine cause to get themselves individual positions in whatever they were trying to do.
Yeah,
agendas.
And I think you're right. What you said before, I spotted the same thing, that those of us who were in multiracial communities and those of us who had always lived in these communities were being called out by white people who had never been around these scenes at all. And it was kind of like I found the few, like the people with no black friends had to be the ones being the loudest anti-racist and calling all other white people racist, because maybe they felt uncomfortable and they wanted to get there before someone called them a racist or something.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of trying to hide their own insecurities. Like, it's how it come across to me. But I remember in the 90s where I was the only white kid in my class that listened to rap music. So I was treated I was treated discriminatory, and I was constantly calling up other white people on their racism and constantly being the odd one out for associating with non-white people. So, but then it's a reverse now, but the majority, because the majority now decided not to be racist, now they've got a right to point the finger. But a lot of these people were very quiet in the 90s, and it's just, and it's, some people are my age and they were very quiet in the 90s, and now they're the most vocal people about social issues, which I just find funny. I just think the reason that they're doing it is suspect to me.
Yeah, there's this kind of virtue signaling, as they call it, and I mean, even more so in the late 70s, early 80s, there was, because the National Front were big then, so it was actually, it was kind of cool to be the cool racist culture.
That's what I remember. All the dickheads in my class always etching NF on the desks.
Yeah, even though the NF was probably pretty much dead by that time.
Yeah, it pretty much was, but it still existed in even where I was, because there were times when I went to schools and it wasn't. There was 3, 4, 5 black kids in the school in the class out of 20. That's a minority. You know what I'm saying? There's still 15 white kids, and that's. Yeah. I was still ostracized for my alignment with the culture. Yeah. But I knew it was wrong. I just knew. I'd watched, I don't know whether it's some films I'd watched from early, from young, that I just made me realize that, no, this isn't right. Like, that then to treat people not the same is just not, it's just not right, and it just seems like the majority get it. They want to use it as a divide and conquer kind of tactic, but I don't know. The media that has a different agenda to what the public have. I think the public could either generally want to help and don't know how to, and just feel that trolling or voicing their opinion on the internet is somehow going to change something. But then I feel that the media have a hidden agenda, because they know that it's going to cause arguments, it's going to cause divide, it's going to cause people like myself, who's been a part of the community, to now be looked at in a different way and ostracized from that same community that he's been a part of his whole life. That is divide and conquer. they succeeded in the sense with me. So
Yeah.
I guess I'm the living proof that it worked. So
yeah, well, I mean, and you know, you said in that track, and now they label me a racist, and that's been my experience. It's like,
I was predicting the future.
no one ever called me a racist before, and you know, I've been on every anti-racist march there was, and then suddenly 5 years ago, people start calling me racist. Like, and 10, you know,
because if your opinion is not of this one particular narrative that's been scripted for you as a white man, then you must be a racist. You can only have this one opinion, this one narrative opinion, and that's it. You know, if your opinion sways at any, then you're a racist. But I feel that it's just more of a case of, it's just Nazism the other way around. It's just labeling someone to diminish their opinion,
so that you can jump on them and witch hunt them. And I mean, that's, I guess, when I first came across you, I saw there were I don't know if I should name him or not, but there was a fairly well-known London rapper who was kind of leading the crowd against you, and it was that typical school ground bullying thing. It would be him calling you names, and then his 100 little disciples all kind of like going, yeah, you know, echoing what he said. And that, what was that because of that track, or just because you're a white?
Solely because of that track. It was literally solely because of that track.
Yeah,
it caused the whole situation.
And they clearly decided not to watch it or not to understand it.
I mean, I think initially it was the track come out and it started to get a good response. It was on the verge of going viral, and then Hyper Frank wrote an article, and alongside the article sent several emails to other blogs, other PR companies, everyone that was basically behind pushing it, or anyone that was getting contacted by our PR company. She was getting to them first, saying, do not fuck with this tune, do not put it out there. And she worked for Complex as well. You know, Complex is fucking big, you know. It's just the UK version. It's not the American one, but it's still, they've got the branding behind them. If Complex say, don't fuck with this, it's not going anywhere. It's done. They've done my dance. It was over at that point. And then obviously Nova Flip got wind of their article, and that kind of was the basis of his argument against me at this point. He saw a point where him as a failing musician could find a way of capitalizing off the attention I was getting and divert it his way. And I'm not gonna lie, I probably helped him play into that very well, you know, down to my own ego, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I encountered him a couple of times, and it was, he loved jumping in and correcting white people on their language and stuff. And then so for a pat on the head from Genesis Elijah or someone like that, you know. But
well, when you see that pyramid of racism, you know, white savior complex is right out there. So.
And strange thing is, in the hip hop world, or in the kind of reggae world that I was used to, there's a reverse thing in that. I mean, you have to feel it's harder. You have to kind of, as they say, the other way around. You have to work twice as hard if you're going to fit in. You know, if you're going to be, presumably, if you're going to be a white rapper, you don't just have to be good. You have to be good, because otherwise you'll just be accused of copying, of appropriating black culture or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, the odds are against you from the get-go anyway, because in the outside world, you're deemed as privileged, but within this world, you're disadvantaged, but no one...
Yeah.
You're allowed to acknowledge that. It's like your bad taste to even acknowledge or point it out. Or even
I think most white people just don't understand that.
Yeah, no, because they don't. They have limited knowledge of the culture, so they're going to draw on what they think is allowing them to align and fit in and go unnoticed, you know, in a sense, where they don't have to address some of their own probably deep racial issues, you know.
I think
it's all other people out, isn't it? You know, you can go on undiscovered for many years by doing that.
It's very much a bullying culture, and you can understand why most people, like I kind of have some perverse pleasure in fighting my corner, which often isn't useful, especially in times like that.
Yeah, no, I had to come off Facebook and Twitter for that reason. Like,
Yeah.
I had to start a company and get my life in order because, you know, at the end of the day, I've invested probably 10 years into this music, this genre of music, pretty much my whole life. Probably 10 years, I'm talking about a good 15, 20 now, forgetting my age. Been saying 10 years for so long, I've forgotten I've aged. So it's the majority of the time I've been alive, I've actually invested in this music. And monetarily, I then gained a lot. So I had to invest my time into building up something other than my own musical brand. So I started a company, and in 2 years, I probably outdid everything I'd ever made in the music industry. So,
Yeah.
You know, I had to walk away for my children's sake, for everyone's sake, you know, because, you know, everyone rent needs to be paid, bills need to be paid, everything, you know, thing needs to be worked. And if it was made impossible for me to have a career in something I'd invested so much time in, I had to go somewhere else and create a career somewhere else. And
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm going to say I'm privileged now, but, you know, I'll take that on the chin now. I've actually got money in the bank. I didn't then, so that's why I took it personal. You know, I was really suffering. I'd been poor my whole life.
It's natural to want to stand and fight your corner, especially in the face of bullies. But as you say,
I was in a homeless hostel, signing on at a job centre when that song came out. Do you know?
Right.
And although my label made it look like I wasn't, because that's what they do, you know. But they didn't give me any money. You know, I didn't get any advance. I didn't get anything. I literally had to suffer all of that for nothing. And I never even made a penny from the streams either. They still get paid for that stream. So, you know, and like I say, it was the idea, it was owned by a black-owned label. So anyone feeling that you're supporting a racist by streaming or whatever, no, you're not. You're supporting a black-owned label. They get all the money. I don't get a penny. So
you're kind of in a reverse Wiley kind of situation.
Reverse, completely reverse.
Won't mention Wiley.
Talking of Wiley, yeah.
My last video was a rant about Wiley, but yeah, I welcome your thoughts.
Yeah, I had a few thoughts about Wiley, and this is only because of something Mega Man said, and I've actually really rated because he said about questioning the agenda of the BLM, the leaders. I thought that was good. I can't say that. If I ever said that, I'll be classed as a racist, but I'm glad he said it because I looked into their political agenda and I wasn't too sure, especially when you look at who the leaders are. And their agenda seems suspect. However, that doesn't mean that the sentiment and everything that Black Lives Matter stands for isn't exactly what Mega Man's pushing and what he wants. He just...
Yeah, I mean, I think I saw a tweet from him where he was asking...
Yeah. I agree with him.
Where are they spending their money?
Yeah. But then he goes and says that we should support Wiley, and I just thought...
I saw that as well, yeah.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I can't support somebody discriminating somebody. That would make me a hypocrite. I can't justify that in any way, shape or form. So I don't know what he's on. But in his defense, if you've ever watched a lot of Illuminati videos, which I'm sure he has.
I know. I've seen a lot of these conspiracy things, and
yeah, then these things they tell you about the Zionist Jews and all of this and that. It's propaganda. It's exactly the same as everything. I mean, I took some of that Illuminati stuff back in the day. I used to look into it a bit, but I'm not gonna lie. I've met some people that are worth quite a lot of money. I've never found these Illuminati people or these group of people who sit down at a table and decide these world issues. I don't know where they are, man. I'm looking for them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm Jewish myself, and I keep saying someone's
my brother is as well. Yeah,
so if we run the world and stuff, then someone's forgot to send me an invitation, you know. But
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with me. A lot of my mates have just gone for this and they repeat it without realizing what it might mean and stuff. But I mean, you know,
Jewish people just got into the financial sector very early, and if they hadn't have, we might have been in a lot of trouble from a worldwide standstill. But
and into the music scene as well.
The financial sector is so diverse, and anyone that thinks that one family runs, it's just ridiculous. They don't know economics for one. It's something I didn't know, but from trading for a couple of years on Forex and stocks, and just understanding how money works and how the flow of money works, you'll figure out that a lot of these videos are just an absolute load of bullshit, man. It's like it's so complex the way the financial world works. It's like a million players entwined in each other. It's, you know, when you get down to bond,
I think it highlights the dangers of social media and stuff.
Lack of knowledge and just running with something, you know, if you don't understand everything about the world, you can't sit there and make a video saying these are fucking 4 people that run it all and it's this family and this, that and the other. It's like
it's nice and easy to believe. But the thing is that I know people like Wiley, and there's a bloke in my gym who's always in the changing room when I'm trying to get changed, giving me a lecture on blah blah blah, the history of Israel, but you know, and it's like, okay, yeah, mate, yeah, okay, I'm going to work out now. But it's you know, that there are people like that everywhere. The problem is that this guy has 500,000 Twitter followers, and that there are already groups going around to Jewish areas punching people in the face and stuff. So it doesn't really help. And yeah, and this is, I love social media and free speech, but this is the downside, that people can't sift reality from fantasy, and you know, that's the danger in it.
That's it, yeah. And with, you know, YouTube and everything where you can edit and splice stuff together, it just gets worse. You know, it's one thing having an opinion, but you can really edit something together. You can edit a million things that have nothing to do with each other and put it together. That's a very, very dangerous thing. I think YouTube should have done more about stopping that from, I think they do nowadays, to be honest, but I think, yeah, they've caused a lot of these conspiracy theories. I mean, yes, I understand there's a history of the world, and I understand that, you know, everyone was moving about, and you know, I'm fully aware of the history of the Israelites, but to sit there and tell that to somebody in this day and age, like, just in that kind of way, like it's I don't know. I think a lot of it might be ego. It's like, I have this knowledge that outdoes your knowledge, so you know, it's
the real truth.
Yeah,
is the truth, though.
They have the real truth.
Yeah,
and I guarantee you, nobody does. Fucking least of all me. I'm telling you that. So, you know, and that's ultimately what my music's always just been about. I'm not going to tell you like I'm fucking Jesus. Like, I'm just giving out my opinion and how I feel, and based upon my upbringing and my surroundings. That's all I can do. I can't be somebody based upon somebody else's life or their upbringing. You know what I mean? But it just seems that you have to have this narrative, like, and you got to fit in it. And I don't know if I'm willing to play that game, man. It's too exhausting.
It sounds like you're in a better place. And I guess, I mean, what you went through 5 years ago is what they now call cancel culture. And if anything what happened to you is happening times 100, I know, you know, there are professors being pushed out of universities and all. So, you know, it's certainly not over, but, you know, I guess relatively.
The grime DJ got sacked, and yeah, he's been the main supporter of grime from the beginning. Logan Sama got sacked over an old tweet about something. I don't even know.
I missed that.
Totally not racist guy, but
yeah,
you know, political correctness and the fact that the BBC have to, they have to just go with this political correct kind of attitude. The poor guy had to lose his job. So again, it's a lot. I'm not the only one. There's millions of people. There's millions of people that could have added value to this culture, to the music, to everything, that they will never get the opportunity to ever add value to because of social justice warriorism. If that's even a word, but you know, probably make it one.
this thing feels like it. This thing's still burning, and it feels like it has to burn out. And you hope it doesn't get too crazy before it burns out.
Yeah. But you know, I've got to thank them. They've done me favors. Like I was in a really bad place 2 years ago. So getting out in the music industry is I'm still in the music industry, but getting out in front of the camera, in front of the mic, and helping behind the scenes where I'm not attacked, that has helped me out, put me in such a better place mentally. Yeah, I mean, maybe I wasn't cut out for fame, because you know, you got to take this shit on the chin, and I don't know, man, it's very exhausting.